The movie quote that I use the most for inspiration for me came from the movie The Deer Hunter, and I don't even think it's in the movie. I watched the movie the other day, and it I don't think it's there. It's something along the lines that you have to do it or you gotta do it, and it's when they're playing roulette with the Vietnamese in the jungle, and Robert De Niro's telling, I can't remember his first name, his last name, Savage, that you have to do it. You have to play roulette. You have to put the gun to your head. You have to do it even though you don't want to, even though it's scary. You have to do it. And I always tell myself that you got to do it. There's certain things that you just have to do, even though you don't want to do it. And a lot of times there's scary things. Like when I went through a divorce, there were certain things that I had to do, and I would just tell myself, you got to do it. There's absolutely no way around it. You got to do it. And a lot of times I would do it just in Robert De Niro. You know, I'd see or hear Robert De Niro in my head. My cat's going near my... And to me, it's an inspirational movie quote, because there's points and times where you absolutely positively just have to do it. So, and you don't have a choice in the matter. You don't want to do it. You want to give up. You just want to whatever it is over with, or to end it or anything like that. And it's not in the cards. You absolutely have to do it. And I don't even think that quote's in the movie. The other one is thank yourselves, and I'm certain he says this from Schindler's List. At the end of it, when the war's over, he gathers all the Jewish people together, and he says, don't thank me, thank yourselves. And I always feel that way when somebody wants to thank me for something. I want to thank them for the opportunity to do whatever it was that they needed done for them. Because to me, it was a wonderful opportunity maybe to help somebody else out or something like that. Here's a few more. Get busy living or get busy dying from the Shawshank Redemption. I don't ever say that to myself, but it sounds like something I would say to myself. It's just never stuck with me, and it's a top 50 movie. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. So a lot of the movies that I watch are gangster movies, voyeuristic movies, movies that don't line up with the Four Agreements, movies that don't line up with what exactly we're supposed to do in everyday life or make us better human beings. But we have to remember that life is a dream. Even though we're not asleep, we're still dreaming. The only difference between you dream, or the main difference, and the only difference that I can ever think of, the difference between night dreaming and daydreaming, is that, and you're always dreaming. I'm dreaming right now. The words that are coming out of my mouth are just dreams. What I see around myself, what I imagine what myself is, what I imagine what you are, what I imagine of anything, it's all here. It's nowhere else. It doesn't exist anywhere. I can only see what I see the way that I see it. So the same thing goes for movies. To me, a movie is like a dream. So if you're watching a movie like that quote comes from Goodfellas. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. That movie's a dream. That movie's a dream of being a gangster. Wouldn't it be fun to be a gangster for a day? Or wouldn't it be fun to have a dream of being a gangster, or to think you were a gangster for a little while? The thing that always scares me about being a gangster is I wouldn't care about worrying about being killed, but I don't want to be tortured. And those guys get tortured a lot, and I don't have any... I would be just scared to death of any time and any point in time in my life of being tortured. So, you hear a lot of... A really good movie, and Deer Hunter's one of them. Like, you got these three friends, or these guys that are friends, and all of a sudden they find each other within, there's tens of thousands of American troops in Vietnam, but they all seem to find each other in Vietnam. I mean, what's the likelihood of that? So when I'm watching the movie, if I'm into the movie, it's called suspension of disbelief, but the movie's a dream. So if you can suspend your disbelief and you can watch the movie and you can believe what's going on is possible within this dream, then it makes for a good movie. So, and another good example, any movie can be a good example, but they'll say, like, nobody likes Stanley, or some people didn't like Stanley Kubrick's last movie because it wasn't realistic. And then they would say, like, they filmed the movie in London, but it's supposed to take place in Manhattan. And then a critic or a person watching it would say, well, there's no street that's as narrow as that street anywhere in Manhattan, so it can't be true. Well, it's an idealized Manhattan. It's Manhattan in a dream. A lot of the movies that I watch, I'll watch a movie and I'll be invested in the movie because I love the movie, and then I'll read about the movie, and then I'll read a lot of stuff like movie mistakes and things like that. So you'll see in the movie, oh, what about this plot detail? What about this plot hole? And why didn't this guy do this? And why didn't this guy do that? And why did this guy go through all of this when all he had to do was just this? And you come to find out that that's not what the movie was intended for, and that's not what your mind wants to know about the movie, or what your mind directs itself when you're watching the movie or when you're thinking about the movie. The mind is looking at it as if it's a dream. And that's why so many people like stage plays. That's why so many people like, so many things that are just broken up into pieces that don't make any sense. So that's my view on that. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. That's a good movie quote. I love that quote, and it's from It's a Wonderful Life. And then at the end of the movie, Zoe, his child, says every time an angel, she believes, she's a child, she believes every time she rings a bell that an angel gets its wings. So somebody goes to heaven, or what we call heaven. So she rings the bell and rings the bell and rings the bell on the Christmas tree several thousand times just to get as many angels to heaven as possible. So this is Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life. Don't have to watch the movie or anything like that. We're just looking at the quotes. Strange, isn't it? Each man's life touches so many other lives. And when he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole, doesn't he? And the main protagonist in the movie kills himself. And then an angel brings him back to life to show him how great his life was, because he didn't know how great his life was. And it's a pretty good movie. It's definitely idealized. It's definitely an idealized movie. Here's the next one, and here's the last one I'm going to do. It's from the movie Accidental Tourist. I just watched that movie recently. It is on Tubi right now, but you're going to have to catch it quick. It will be a great date night movie, because to me it's like a movie that a husband and a wife would both want to see. It's good for both parties. I'm beginning to think that maybe it's not just how much you love someone. Maybe what matters is who you are when you're with them. Anyway, my iPod just died, so I'm going to get off of this. I think that this quote right here is more or less of a tree. It's a meditation quote. It's more or less like a tree falling in a wilderness doesn't make a sound type of thing. But once the music stops, I got to go.